guys, it's Kat here, and today I'm going to be talking about what I was watching in February and March. So previously I used to do this monthly, but I figure maybe bi-monthly because people don't care, but I want to talk about it. So February, March, maybe I'll then do April and May, we shall see. But let's just kick off. Stuff I watched in February. So first of all, Drag Race UK versus the World. It was a little bit messy, not gonna lie. I feel like with this, because it was loads of queens and it was versus the world, maybe they should have done the whole thing that people have been talking about for ages for All Stars, in that they should keep everybody in. It should be a points-based system, because there were some messy decisions in this show, and it got to the point where the final four I was like, yeah, but they're not the people that should all be there necessarily. I wasn't too mad about Blue winning, because out of the four I was like, if it's not Blue then it's a little bit crazy. But I mean, we all know who should have won, don't we? But yes, it was fun, it was fine, it was enjoyable, but it was messy. But we can probably say that about every RuPaul TV show nowadays. It's still fun though, we all still watch it. Let's just move on. I also watched Encanto. This was a film that I saw a lot of people talking about. I didn't necessarily even put it on myself. I just walked into a room where my mum was watching it and was like, all right then, I'll just sit here and watch this film. So I did miss a tiny little bit at the beginning, but I watched most of it, and it was all right. I don't think I'm obsessed with it as much as everybody on the internet seems to be. People are going on about the songs in it. I thought a few of the songs were a little bit too much. Like, I can't remember which one it was, but one of them, they were singing and then somebody else was singing over the top, and towards the end of the song there was like 10 different characters all singing different words, and it just all became an absolute muddle of just sound that just didn't make any sense. And I was like, is this meant to be enjoyable? Because this is just a lot of, just like a wall of sound, and that is it. In terms of the story, I thought it was fun, it was fine, it wasn't amazing. Again, I did like the house was really cool. I like it when either inanimate objects or animals have personalities. The house had a personality, so obviously I'm going to enjoy that. I liked the characters and the different powers they had. It was good. It was good, but I'm not obsessed with it like a lot of people seem to be. Next up, I watched a true crime documentary series called Catching Killers. There's 2 seasons, each only have 4 episodes though, so it's not like massive. And some of the episodes are singular episodes, some of them are 2-parters. And it just has several different cases, and it follows the police investigation, because obviously it's about catching the killer. So the detectives are talking to the camera and saying what's happening and how they got to certain points. There were some interesting things that I didn't necessarily know. So there was an episode about Eileen Wuornos, and I didn't know how she was caught. There was a guy that was undercover, and he went to the bar she was at, and he was playing pool with her or something and talking to her and trying to get some information out of her. So I thought that was kind of interesting, seeing some of the behind the scenes things that I didn't necessarily knew happened. There were other cases that are really big and known, like BTK, but there's also certain things that I had never heard of. So there was one about a vampire guy that ate somebody, but did he eat somebody? Was he a cannibal? Was he not? That was a 2-parter, and that one was kind of wild. There was a lot of twists and turns in that. Like, did this certain person get this person off the internet and eat them, or did they not? And at the end, you're still not 100% sure which way it went. So yeah, I enjoy watching true crime stuff. This was a new one for me, so I watched it. I also watched a TV show called 13. This was from a few years ago and has Jodie Comer as the main girl in it. Side note, I've heard a lot of people talk about Killing Eve, or I've seen it around, but I've never seen it before. If you've seen it, let me know in the comments if it's worth a watch, because maybe I'll watch it, maybe I won't, I don't know. For me, when I see Jodie Comer, I just think about My Mad Fat Diary, but I know she's a big actress now. But this one, I think it was a BBC thing or an ITV thing or whatever, and Jodie plays a girl that was abducted like 11 years ago. So the first shot of this show, I think it was 3-parters, was her coming out of a house, running down a road, getting to a police box and saying, my name is whatever her name was, because I'm crap at names, my name is blah blah Bladison, and I was taken 11 years ago. And then the main premise of the show is surrounding her with her family, trying to figure out how she fits back into this dynamic, which has changed a lot. Obviously they're all adults now. She has a younger sister who is older now. Her family have split up, but they don't tell her that the parents are split up. And then also it deals with the detectives and that side of things because they haven't got the guy that took her. They know who he is. This show was really good but also really frustrating at the same time. So the frustrating part was how the detectives talked to her several times throughout. It was like they were blaming her for what happened, like, oh, did you have a relationship with this dude? Did you run away from him on purpose? And it's like, she was a child, so she literally can't consent to running away with him, even if she did know him, but she didn't. She was literally stolen and kept in a house to stop being a bastard to her. And then also they just kept treating her like a suspect, and it really annoyed me. But also that's probably how the police really work in real life, because sometimes they're a bastard. So yeah, it was interesting, it was frustrating, it was good, it was engaging. All them words are what this show was. I watched Young Wallander. There is a Wallander, I don't think I've ever seen it though, which is a show about a detective. Can you see? I don't really like reading books about detectives, but I really enjoy watching shows about detectives. So in Young Wallander, right, first of all, it was really weird because I believe he's Swedish. And the main actor that plays Young Wallander is Swedish. And it's set in Sweden, but all of the other actors around him are really English. Like apples and pears, Prapalanden English, some of them are. And then they say in places like, oh yeah, in this place. I didn't even know it took place in Sweden until I heard them talking about certain places, and I was like, hang on. How is this not set in England when all of the cast, apart from the main guy, are clearly English and clearly from the south of England? It was really weird, that dynamic. I don't know what the thought process behind that was. If they can get a main character that's from Sweden and do the show in English, they could have just had all the characters Swedish talking in English if they didn't want to have the language barrier. It was weird anyway, but after that sort of initial shock of me thinking, what the crap is going on here? I really enjoyed it. I think there was 2 seasons. I watched them both. I enjoyed them both. It was a good time. Moving on. I watched a short called Heartshot. This is on Netflix. It's only like 10-15 minutes long, 20 minutes max maybe. And it's really weird, but cool. And I feel like they maybe put it out there in hopes that someone will pick it up and want to make a full film about it, because it's really weird. It's about these 2 girls and they're just chilling, they're girlfriends, they're at one of their houses, and it seems like it's just going to be a normal lesbian romancy type, and then it goes really weird. I'm not going to tell you how because I feel like it'll be a bit of a spoiler, and it's really short, so if you've got like 20 minutes or whatever and Netflix, give it a watch. But it goes places I really was not expecting. And it leaves so many questions unanswered and opens up so many possibilities that I feel like it was a very clever ploy to hope that they could get money to make this into a full film, because answers are needed. So yeah. And finally in February, I watched The Suicide Squad. So, I watched Suicide Squad when it came out. Side note, why do they keep doing this? Why make a film called Suicide Squad and then one called The Suicide Squad? The other day, I was Googling something about Scream, you know, Scream that came out years ago, and you're writing Scream and then it comes out with Scream 2022. Why do they do this? Why do they call films the same thing? It's not even a reboot either, it's got the same characters in. I've not seen it yet, definitely want to, but it just annoyed me, and also works with this about the same titles. But anyway, that's not even what I'm talking about. The Suicide Squad, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good film. To be fair, I did enjoy Suicide Squad as well. It got panned a lot, loads of people moaned about it being crap, but I thought just as a popcorn flick, bit of fun, it was fine, it was enjoyable. The Suicide Squad I definitely enjoyed more. I enjoyed all the characters, I liked how they set it out, the opening scene, and they brought these old characters and new characters together and showed you how it worked. And yeah, I just think it was really fun. There was a lot of fun bits to it, there was a lot of cool characters. I like rats, so to see a character that also liked rats was a fun time. And yeah, it was good. So before we jump on into March, let's head over for a message, one of the spawns, and then I shall be back with the March things.
On top of those projected textures. Say you do this couch, right? You might not get all these little bumps and crevices, but it will warp around this. So you'll see a mixture of all three, where a corner of a room with molding on the bottom, the shadow's just flat against the molding, but it does warp around the corner of the room. The interesting thing about Arcane, and from what I can understand, is there's very little actual...
So, moving on to March. First up, I watched Monsters Inside, the 24 Faces of Billy Milligan. This was a true crime documentary, several parts to the thing, and it's about, as the title suggests, Billy Milligan. And he was a dude that committed crimes and then said that he had different personalities. It's about DID, it's about whether he had it, whether he was lying, whether he had control of himself, whether it was a different alter. It was interesting to watch. I did think they tried to put both sides of the case down pretty equally. I was watching it and I was thinking, I really hope they don't vilify people with DID, because that's not it. That's not what we do with people with mental illnesses or physical illnesses or disabilities. We don't vilify them. But I'm glad that it did show people on one side like, this is a thing that doesn't exist, people are making it up, but it also showed people on the other side of it saying it is a thing, people have it. So I think the balance was pretty decent there. And again, it was one of them ones where you're watching it and you're still not 100% sure where you're sitting with it, what's going on. But it was definitely an interesting watch. Next up, I watched a film called Against the Ice. This is about some people doing polar expeditions, you know me. But it was a film about these guys that went to try and get all the people that went on an expedition. So a team went out, they died or got lost or whatever. Another person comes, finds the dead body of one of them and his journals, and in his journals he says that he's got this information that they went out for. They put it in a cairn somewhere. So then there's an expedition to go out to find the cairn, to find the information. It's all about this thing where if the information is one thing, it means that this piece of the land, it's in Greenland, is all one bit of Greenland, so it's all owned by the same people. But if it's not, and it's actually an island, then I think it was the America is allowed to own that bit, but not this bit. It was that sort of business. But yeah, it was an enjoyable time. I like polar expedition stuff. I watched it, I didn't really know about this expedition, about this thing that happened. So it was enjoyable. I do think some of it was a little bit not the best. So there was a bit with a polar bear and the CGI was absolutely terrible and it was a bit cringy. And I thought, you know what, this is a thing, like this is a Netflix film, surely they've got a little bit more money for the CGI, because I watch Corridor Crew and I know that you can make some good CGI with not a lot of money. So I don't know if it was the time or the money, but the polar bear looked really bad. But other than that, I thought it was interesting. I did read up on the real life thing that happened, and there were definitely some elements that were created for this film. For example, there's a whole bit of the film where the main guy is seeing his wife as dead and he's talking to her and it's making him go crazy and making him want to kill the other guy because he thinks the other guy's having an affair with his imaginary dead wife who's not even dead, she's at home. And I read into it and I was like, none of that is true, they've just dramatized it, because otherwise maybe they'd think the film was boring about just these two men walking about in the ice. So yeah, I guess it made an interesting film in that sense, but also I do think some of the liberties they took were probably too far. They shouldn't say it's based on a true story if they're making up whole like that, making up whole pretend imaginary wives. It was, yeah, it was random, but I enjoyed it. Next, I watched a TV show called Save Me. So this one is about a guy who's just, he's couch surfing, he's down on his luck, he just drinks and hangs out with friends and people he knows, but he's a bit of a bum. He has a daughter that he's never really met before. I think he met her once ages ago, and then when he's just chilling, the police turn up, take him away, and they're saying, what happened, where is your daughter, you've taken your daughter. Obviously he's like, what? So it turns out that somebody has been posing as him on the internet. She's been talking to her father and then went to meet her father, and it obviously wasn't him, and now she's missing. So this show is about him trying to figure out what happened to his daughter. He's really invested in it now, and he's never really been in her life previously, but now he's really wanting to find her, and has kind of realised that he should have been caring about her and should have been in her life this whole time. So you get both sides of the story. Obviously the police are still a bit wary about him, thinking it was him, but he's like, bro, it was not me. Now let's try and find what actually happens. And I liked it because I think it went in a way that you wouldn't expect. There's 2 seasons. The first season, at the end, I was like gobsmacked what happened, and then the second season carries on from that, and also more stuff happens. And yeah, I thought it was really good, and I think there's another season coming out at some point. I think there's another one confirmed, so it might be interesting to watch. I watched it on Now TV, which I don't have anymore, so I'll have to just VPN illegally watch it. I mean, I'll find some way of watching it. But let's move on. I watched another true crime documentary. Again, you can see the sort of things that I like watching. And it was called The Puppet Master Hunting the Ultimate Con Man. And this one was really kind of harrowing because it's about this guy who is a con man, and he goes into people's lives and pretends he's like this really cool, good person that's got loads of money. He gets like deep in their life, gets in relationships, gets married to people, and then slowly starts breaking them away from their family, telling them, oh, you don't like that person's horrible, stop looking at them. Isolates the person, and then's like really manipulative and takes loads of money off people. There's this whole FBI thing, like for one person that he was conning, he was telling their family that he was in the FBI and needed money because of weird things. Something else was about the IRA. He was telling someone, and that they had to go away because the IRA is going to get them. And it's told in 3 timelines. So we start with this family who, this is the harrowingest part of this. These 2 kids and their dad, their mum is with this con man right now. Like, he went to prison for a bit, as we see in the previous 2 timelines of other people that he's done it to, and he's come back out, and he's taken their mum away, and he's kind of like telling the story of what's happening, but also a bit of a plea to their mum to try and get her to interact with them. She's been missing, not even missing, like they know she's alive because they've seen certain things of her and interacted over the phone, but she's very much under his grasp, and it's really hard. It's harsh because these kids want their family back, and her mum's like, oh no, I know what he used to be, but he's changed, even though he's done exactly the same to her in isolating her, moving away from her family, keeping her to himself. So it's really harsh that someone's still under his spell right now, but hopefully this documentary has got it out there and people can see what's happening. Who knows, it might help, it might not, but like I say, there's 3 timelines, and then another one, it's a woman that this happened to, and she was gone for like 10 years or something crazy. Took loads of money off her family because she was put in a situation where she really thought she was escaping from the IRA, I think that one was. And then like I said, there's another one where he was doing this to other people, this American woman, and then phoning her parents saying, oh, we need more money because she's training to also be in the FBI, so we need money for her training. And it's this really weird thing that he's got going on, and it's just really interesting, but also really harsh that he's literally still doing it right now. Like, he went to prison, I think, from what I remember, he had quite a long sentence, and then he managed to get it squashed to really short, and then went back out and then started doing the same thing. So yeah, it was intriguing. It's on Netflix if it sounds interesting. I also watched Merle, one second.
Saperalda.
Saperalda, that's not.
Saperalda.
Saperalda. Merle Saperalda. It's Spanish, well, it's Catalan, and that's how you pronounce it. So this is on Netflix, and please everyone watch it if you want, because I really want to watch the second season. This was a rewatch for me. I watched this season when it came out online, had to find it really randomly because it is in Catalan, so I had to find it randomly on the internet. Someone had put it on a Google Doc somewhere, add English subtitles to it. And then it came on Netflix, so I was like, yes, let me rewatch this because I want them to put season 2 out, which I haven't seen yet, because I want to see it. And also it would be good if they put Merle on here. So this is a spin-off of the show Merle, which is about this professor guy, Merle. He's a philosophy professor, and it's about him talking about philosophy, it's about the students. And then this is a spin-off. and it's about Paul, who is one of the students, and him going to university, and it's just really good. And if you like, I know loads of people are going on at the moment about shows with bi representation, because Heartstopper, Nick, came out, and then I've seen on Twitter people like, oh finally, Merle saper alde, Paul is bisexual, and a lot of this show is him dealing with that and actually putting a word on it. You won't get all of the backstory, because if you haven't seen Merle you won't necessarily understand it, but please watch it because it's really good, and I want season 2 to come out, and if people watch it then it might come out. And it's also about philosophy, so it's really cool and it's really interesting. They're at university, it's about him and his friendship group, him having a crush on a boy. In Merle the TV show, he has a thing with Merle's son, Bruno, who's also in this, but you won't necessarily know the backstory. But please watch it because I want season 2 to come on to Netflix, and I want Merle to be put on here, because I've never actually seen it all because it's really hard to get hold of. So I've seen bits and pieces of what I can and what people have translated and put in English subs on, but I've not seen all of Merle either, and I really want to. So yeah, watch it please. And then last but not least, I watched a show called Newark. Fun fact, I am Newark, I'm not Newark, I live in Newark. This is set in my hometown. It was written by a guy who's from my town. He went to school with my brother in primary school, like he's from here. He wrote a show about from here. It was filmed here in December last year, and it was cool because I saw stuff happening around. There was like, they were filming on the market. The Chippy in this show, it's a 3-parter. Some of it is set in a Chippy because one of the characters works there. That's literally my Chippy, like my local Chippy. It's about 3 minutes away from my house. I took a photo of it when I saw them filming there. But anyway, I was really excited to watch this because it's from here and it's about here and it was interesting. It was alright. It wasn't the best. It wasn't horrific. It was fine. The first episode I thought was a little bit, I was watching it kind of straight faced thinking this is meant to be a comedy but nothing funny has really happened yet. I thought the second episode was a lot better. It was my favourite out of the 3. The third episode was good. Not as good as the second, but I thought it was alright. I thought it was pretty decent. If you've seen Our Flag Means Death, which I will be talking about in the next time because I watched it this month, it was really good. But if you've seen that, the scribe in that, can't remember his name, but the guy that does all the scribing, that's Nathan Fode. He's the one from Newark. He's the one that wrote Newark. He also makes a cameo in it, so it was cool to see him in that. But this is his show that he brought out, set in my hometown, and yeah, I like that it happened. It's really cool, and like I say, it was alright. It wasn't amazing. Some of the acting was a little bit off, but some of it was decent. Mixed opinions, but I'm glad it happened. It's really cool that there was a show set in my hometown. And yeah, those are all the things that I watched in February and March. Let me know down below if you've seen any of these, if any sound like you want to watch them now, maybe they've piqued your little interest. Let me know down below. And if this is your first video by me and you enjoy it, then please check out some of my others. I talk about books and I also do some art stuff and also talk about shows and that. So yeah, and if you continue to enjoy, then please subscribe, that'd be awesome. Anyway guys, I'll see you in a few days with another video.